questions. All right, what's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining us again for another edition of Break Debates. This is our 28th episode, if I'm remembering correctly, and I have with me once again Ken Phillips. Go ahead,
Ken. Yay! Golf clap. Golf clap.
Now, last week we ended up missing an episode because
I had to buy a homecoming dress for my daughter. Yeah. Is what it was. And so I hope she's happy with that because she's only gonna wear it like one time and that's it, you know.
And I slipped up. Yeah, I slipped up because I told Zach that I wanted him to come in. Then when he was actually ready to, I was like, "Well, Ken, I forgot that I told him about it." So I messed up on that one.
Well, we'll drag him in on another one
when he ain't playing World of Tanks.
Exactly.
But anyways, guys, as we promised, we're going to deliver a great discussion about the Star Wars film series. We're not going to talk anything about the games, the books, or the television shows. We're just strictly talking about the lore of the films.
Movies. EP 1, 2, and 3, and the originals that we know, 4, 5, and 6. And then, of course, now you got 7 that just came out, and 8 coming up in 2017.
9. Yeah. And then we got the Rogue One coming out in 2 months.
Woo! I'm ready for Rogue One.
And I don't know if you've seen it, but they had a Clone Wars animated movie, and I think that's what started off the series. You see that one?
Yep, Clone Wars animated series. You had that, and then they had it actually ended up being like a movie, and then they rolled it into...
Yeah, they rolled it into a series.
If you watched the Clone Wars on Cartoon Network, they ran... I forgot how many episodes, but it actually kind of tied in episode 2 and episode 3, which was my brain's fried. Attack of the Clones
and Revenge of the Sith.
It ties in those two, but here's the thing to me. I like bad guys in movies. So General Grievous was like the bad guy, and I had watched the Clone Wars series. And I was like, oh, this dude's bad. He's awesome. I love him. And then I saw EP3, and then I'm like, what's wrong with him? What the heck is going on? Why is he such a wuss? And if you had not watched that Clone Wars episode before the movie came out, you were clueless. You had no idea what was going on. And it was a great tie-in, but I'd wished he had said something a little further.
Yeah, I wish they could have. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was completely like, what is wrong? And like, I was kind of disappointed with the movie at that point. So I'm already kind of shut down a little bit. I mean, visually, the beginning of that movie is one of the best beginnings of any of the series altogether. I mean, visually, graphically, just awesome. And when you see it on a theater, it's like, whoa! Blows your mind.
I think part 3 might have been, for me, the most emotionally powerful one.
Yes. Well,
because of the stuff that happens in it later on.
Yes, not the whole overall. You actually see the transition of Anakin trying to do what he thinks is the right thing, and literally becomes seduced by the dark side, hoping to do the right thing. So he knows he's going to do something bad, but it's for the better.
I didn't like the transition in the 3rd movie. I didn't think they took enough time with it.
No, I think
because if you
they could have done something. I mean, you already had a 2.5-hour movie, and I mean, I know they cut a truckload of that movie out too. I think there's like 30 minutes additional on the DVD set if you get the extended play.
Yeah.
You know, you knew it was going to happen, but like I say, they could have done it a little bit better, a little differently. And the ending, the very ending of the movie.
Yeah.
There was some stuff that everybody I know, the diehards, truly hate, like me, when Vader becomes Vader, and you get those goosebumps, and you're like, oh, here he comes. And then they do this little cheesy thing after it, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Really? I waited 30-something years to see that.
I think the thing that got me, why I didn't like the transition so fast was when he became Darth Vader, he executed everything without question. It didn't seem like he was struggling with it.
Well, no, he was already committed. He in his mindset was, this is what I got to do, and this is how it's going to roll. And he didn't even blink an eye because he was convinced. He was so taken by the dark side in this case, that he questioned nothing.
That's what I didn't like.
And when you see him, technically, what would be in episode 4, he's been kind of bad for a while. And then in episode 5, or I'm going to say Star Wars: A New Hope, you are originally introduced to Vader, and you see some of the stuff that he does. You don't get a full grasp of him. You get a start on him. Yeah. And then you get Empire Strikes Back, where you find out a holy crap section in the movie, and you're like, okay, now I understand. But you start seeing, and near the very end, you start seeing that change. He's like, okay. And then, of course, when you get into Return of the Jedi, which originally was titled Revenge of the Jedi, that's the movie that really sticks with me the most. Yeah. Out of all of them, Return of the Jedi is visually well. Yeah. But it's the story of Vader and him understanding all this time, all this build-up and all this stuff that's gone on for roughly, I guess, about 30 years, I guess we could say in the time frame. It may be longer than that, but at least, 25, 30 years. Yeah. And it all comes bubbling out and realizes, oh, crap, what have I done? And, that's where it gets me. When dad and son are fighting it out up in the Emperor's chamber. Yeah. And the music and the scene and everything that's going on. And when he threatens his sister and he's like, I'm going to mow you down. I'm going to tear you apart. And then realizes, I'm just like my dad. I can't be that way. Yeah. That just, boom, right there. That hit me in the movie. I mean, wow.
See, this is how I was with Star Wars. I watched the first, the originals, right? And at the time, kind of green around the ears, so to speak. And I stopped liking it. I was like, this is lame. Now, when the prequels came out, that's what got me back into it again. And I went back and watched them. I was like, okay, they're not as flashy as the prequels are, but they're still pretty good movies.
How old were you when you first saw Star Wars?
It's had been when I was in early before I was 10. Because I was born in 87.
Okay, so I've got you by 15 years. So yeah, I saw it in 1977 when it first came out, but I was 5 years old. Yeah. And then here comes 1980 when I come back to the States, and I see Star Wars, and I'm like, what? So 8 years old now. Yeah. And then 11 when I saw Return of the Jedi. And for me, I mean, those were the original 3. There was nothing else. The EPs did not even exist. And I've been stuck on those movies forever. Forever. I've seen them probably well over 1,000 times each. But then we come in and then we say, George Lucas is going, hey, you know what? Now that I don't have to worry about all these practical effects anymore, I can make things digital. I can use industrial light and magic, and I can make everything that I dreamed of come true.
I think that was kind of that was something that would have been good, but the execution was a bit off because when
cartoony.
When he went CGI with it, he made everything CGI almost.
Yeah, too cartoony. It was killing me. I was so mad when I left the theaters because I stood in line, 8 hours or some crap to see episode 1 over by where Walmart is. And I was so stoked to see it, and then I saw it and I was angry. 2 reasons. 1, too cartoony. Number 2, the storyline reminded me of the other storyline back in 1977. Too much coincidence, too much. There's too many things that just match up exactly to Star Wars, the original Episode 4, A New Hope, and Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. There's just too much.
At the time when The Phantom Menace came out, I actually liked it. Now, when I went back and watched a little bit of it, and I said, man, this is some crappy ass CGI. I didn't admit that. But I did like the one thing I know people don't like about these prequels is the political aspect. And
well, that's what started it, though. I mean,
yeah, that's what I was going to say.
That was the foundation of what Star Wars was, is basically you have a galactic empire. Now, you learn how it starts in episodes 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
But you have no idea. When you come into Star Wars, you're, 30-something years later than the original storyline starts.
Yeah.
All this stuff has happened, and you don't know. It's
I want to ask you this. When it comes to that, going off what you just said, do you think that the prequels, for as flawed as they are, do you think they are like the setup of it, the story of it, the way the pieces of the chessboard are set up? Do you think they did it effectively enough to actually tell the story of the originals?
Now let's go back to Ken's Wayback Machine.
Mm-hmm.
Now, me and a friend of mine, Jacob, long time ago, were Star Wars nuts, big time. But he read a lot more stuff, like the side books and things, than I did.
Yeah.
Now, I remember back in 1980, when I lived there, 83, 84, I lived in Illinois. And he was telling me that all the stormtroopers were clones.
Yeah.
All this other stuff that went on, and it just rattled off. And I'm like, back then I was like, we were thinking they're lizard people, some weird, stupid, crazy stuff. But he told me, he goes, they're clones, and he gave me all this stuff. Here we come back to episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
Lo and behold, what happens? They're all clones.
Episode 2.
Well, yeah, we see episode 2, but they were being built basically kind of quietly in episode 1. You see them in episode 2 and 3, and for the rest of the Star Wars war that we know. But, it all set up everything. And then in this storyline, Lucas originally noted that he had 9 ideas. 9 ideas for movies, or 9 books, if you would like to say it that way.
Yeah.
Now, back in 1977, what he did with what he had was brilliant. Nobody in the world had ever done anything like it, ever. And that's what caught people, and it went crazy. George Lucas made enough money off Star Wars, he made Empire Strikes Back. He made enough money off Empire Strikes Back, he made Return of the Jedi. Most of these movies were all practical. Yeah. But we go back to episode 1 to your question. Does it set up what happens? Yes, they do set up what happens. We see what happens. We see what starts the war, what starts everything, what makes Star Wars become what we know in episode 4. You now understand from episode 1, 2, and 3. We see the formation of the Empire from a republic, freedom to control. We see establishment of, again, going to your government and all of the big political scene. You see what starts all the little stuff in the real world, but in this world. And you see all the little things, the little plays, the little maneuvers, building this, tearing down that, setting up these people for failure, which is actually a destruction. And that's what happens now.
Yeah.
It's happened all the time, but they put it into a story arc that you see. You see a guy who has all the best intentions in the world, who started his life as a slave, who became one of the most powerful people in the galaxy.
Yep.
But he fell on his ass. He fell because he wanted. It wasn't so much the advertisement of power, but it was the draw of being able to do what I want, when I want, how I want, and make everything right.
Yes. Now that I did like that. I did like how they expressed that.
And to him, what he was doing was the right thing, even though most people would disagree.
Yeah.
We can also bounce that back to say comparison. Well, no, I won't do that. We won't do that. We'll skip that whole subject line because that everybody get mad about that. But there was another person in history who also came to power, bringing very similar to what happened. He was a soldier.
Really?
He got wounded. He got mad. He came back. He brought his country. He said, "I'm going to bring us back to a great power," and did all this stuff. And he did exactly what he said. But then he kept going. He didn't stop.
Hitler, right?
It was Hitler.
You talking about Hitler?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I'm about to say.
That's why I said I didn't want to go into names because people get all mad and stuff. But he did exactly what he said. But again, he stepped over that power, just like we saw in episode 3. You know, Anakin's like, I can make all this well. I can make everything right. Being led by the darkness, the evil of the galaxy, going, I'm going to make you more powerful. Well, yeah, he was way more powerful, and he was a tool, and he got used as a tool to run to the galaxy. So that's where we see all this. And then we go back and now we have The Force Awakens that come out here last year in 2015. And you're seeing what happens. You know, yes, the good guys win. The good guys pounded the bad guys. But now you're seeing what happened after all that happened. You're seeing the results of, yes, we won, but there's still all these other people floating around that are causing us trouble. You know, there's always the next big bad deal coming around, or some people say the bigger, better deal.
Yeah.
So we'll always see that. But that's what these movies, whether it's intentional to teach a lesson or let's say, you know, whatever the case may be, we're seeing the rise of the bad guys taking over everything. We're seeing the good still there, still fighting, still going, and then people can relate to that. They bring that struggle because we've seen it. We've seen it in World War I. We've seen it in World War II. Any major conflict, at least the big major ones, we saw the French Resistance, the rebels.
Yeah.
We've seen the Empire, Nazis. We've seen individuals stand out above all else, like Patton, MacArthur, you know, on other sides. We saw Rommel, just like, you know, Darth Maul. All these sides have their heroes and their villains, and it all comes together in this series of movies. And like I say, to me, the first episode 1, 2, and 3, they bring us that story. They tell us that story. But I think execution to me was very cartoony. There is some very awesome graphics in there that would never be possible practically. And I can understand using CGI and Industrial Light and Magic's talents to make that real. I mean, you know, when you see at the end of episode 2, Attack of the Clones, where you actually see the clones now engaged. They're coming online.
Big battle between.
Well, you see them out on Genesis fighting it out. You know, the first time you actually see clone troopers in war or into a battle scene. But then at the very end of the movie, when you see the Emperor standing out, well, actually Chancellor Palpatine at this time, standing there, you got Organa all standing there, you got some of the Senate, and they're all seeing all the Star Destroyers, and they're all loading up with thousands and thousands of troops and equipment, and you see them all lighting up and taking off, and he says, "So it begins." You know, you're like, whoa. If you realize, if you had seen episode 4, 5, and 6, that moment clicks. You're going to be like, holy crud. This is the beginning of the Clone War. This is the beginning of that Star Wars transition that we saw back in 1977. So it's very cool. And we were talking earlier, just kind of offline, talking about Rogue One.
Yeah.
Rogue One's coming out in December this year, which I thought was next year, but I'm glad it's here. I'm even more excited now because we're having a different director than we've had on all the other movies. You know, we're not being held by George Lucas. We're not having J.J. Abrams on this one.
Oh, he's not?
No. He's kind of like a co-producer, director.
Oh, okay.
But the story and everything is more an original story. Now, it's going to tie in to what happened between when we see Return of the Jedi. Star Wars.
Yeah.
When we see Star Wars, we're going to go between Episode 3 and we're going to go between Star Wars. When the Death Star, you know, at the very end of, Return of the Sith, we saw the baddies on Genesis, and they had that little display thing that was showing the Death Star blueprints. The ultimate weapon is what they called it. They didn't call it the Death Star at that time. And now we find out what that weapon was, and you see it. And you're going to see it in Rogue One. In fact, the trailer just gives me chills when you see a Star Destroyer get shadowed by the dish.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
And you're like, holy crud, that thing was actually very big.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
And they're going to tie in one of the characters, her dad, if I can remember right. I don't remember the names because I haven't dug all the names in there, but the main heroine in this show, she's going to be kind of leading that team to get in there and get this information, find out what is this weapon, where's it going to be. But her dad is involved in the project, and they're also on the same planet that they harvest all the Jedi crystals. I can't remember actually what the term for them, but the lightsaber crystals.
Yeah. Okay.
Because the Sith use a synthetic one. That's why they're always red.
Yeah.
But the natural ones that happen for Jedi are, you know, most we've seen green, blue, kind of a whitish blue, purple. Haha, BMF. And you know, there's rumor that he might have survived.
I heard that
he might actually be coming back in one of the other movies.
I heard of that, and if it is, I'm not going to say
I can't wait to see if that happens.
But I want to see them give a good explanation.
Exactly. Well, remember we had a very similar scene in episode, was it 2? On Croissant? With the assassin, and he was on the droid and dropped through all the traffic and stuff, and ended up landing in the little taxi car looking thing.
Oh, you talking about when Anakin,
when Obi-Wan and Anakin were chasing the assassin.
Yeah.
So
Anakin fell quite away. He fell quite away.
It is very possible that he could have survived, again, burnt crispy, but still could have survived and gone underground for the time being. And so they could usually pull him back out in episode 8 or episode 9. It would be.
Yeah, I heard a rumor. I heard a rumor that he could possibly, quote unquote, possibly be a Snook. And I kind of thought about it. I said, well, the design kind of would look like him if he was aged and if he was burnt. So that's an interesting point to kind of.
Very possible. It's very interesting. But we're going to see in Rogue One a different director, a different crew, different team. We're going to see what happened. You know, all these Bothans died to give us this information. You know, when she's talking and telling everybody, you know, a lot of people died to get this information. We're going to see that. And a lot of the early preliminary stuff is, you know, they show one of the posters actually has one of the helmets with a burn mark on it, just laying in the water on that little desert-looking planet.
Yeah.
So we're probably going to see a very nasty side. I know we're going to see Vader, which is very cool.
Yeah.
I don't know who's playing. It's not David Prost, who was the original Vader, and definitely not that crybaby, Hayden Christensen.
He
better not show up in that movie. They space him if he does.
I'm honestly
such a crybaby.
It ain't. He's okay with Hayden Christensen. We're gonna get on him as Anakin. He was a good Anakin, but he was more of the if he was like a stunt double. Like for all this, I'm trying to think how to say it. For like the more lighthearted moments, and for some of the serious moments, he played a good Anakin. The emotional moments is where he sucked.
Oh yes, he was killing me. But one of the other cool things, and I don't remember if you remember this poster, this is one of the things that really excited me, though, about Phantom Menace, the original Phantom Menace, was that there was a picture of a house, and it had Anakin standing like a kid, but his shadow was that of Vader. You remember seeing that poster?
I kind of want to say I do remember seeing it.
I mean, that gave me goosebumps when I saw it. I was like, oh, wow. You know, it was just the foreshadowing of what was to happen, what was to become this little innocent kid, and everything that happened to him to form him into what we know as Vader. You know, the ultimate bad guy in the galaxy.
Let's go ahead and let's talk about some of the characters and the acting. Now, I do like both the original and prequels because I do think that both, to me, they're about equal. I mean, my favorite one is probably Revenge of the Sith, and then it's The Empire Strikes Back, and then it kind of goes down my favorite one is The Force Awakens, then it's The Empire Strikes Back, then it's Revenge of the Sith. Those like my so I got one from every one from every generation.
I still stick with the classics. I think Return of the Jedi being probably my favorite of the series so far. I've only seen The Force Awakens one time, which is strange, but
I had to buy I bought the Blu-ray. I loved it. I went to see the movies twice.
I saw it in theater, and then I I watched it partially one time here at home. I don't know, just something's not kicking me quite in. I mean, there's those moments I love in the movie.
Yeah,
I love seeing Han Solo come back. We're home, you know. It's like, whoa, you know. And when you get some of those, you know, funny moments in the movie, you know, when Solo is being questioned by those assassins and everything, you know, it's hilarious, and you're like, that's so him.
Yeah, they did it. They did great with that. They did a great job with that.
It brought those characters, and I felt like I was watching Star Wars all over again, and I was happy. You know, there's some other stuff that's kind of like, what? Really? The weapon was cool.
I'm not gonna lie. People did mention that, you know, that The Force Awakens is good, and it has a lot of original ideas to it, but it also has a lot of similarities to the original Star Wars. And I think they were doing They were trying to pay so much homage to it, but I think it did enough to be as still kind of different. But it was
different. I mean, it's not as bad as, let's say, Episode 1 and A New Hope. To me, those I just really can't ever watch Episode 1 again. It just burned me that bad. But I could watch The Force Awakens and Episode 4 again, no problem. Mm-hmm. Even though I see some of the similarities in there, but it's not enough to ruin it for me.
Yeah, yeah.
And I like the visuals. I like the practicals. I like Kylo Ren. A very interesting start. You know, you're getting a very early touch of just like early Vader you saw in Star Wars. You're getting a very early touch of Ren. And they throw the mystery in there. We don't have an Emperor, though. We have Snoke.
So, I wanted to see about, like, when it comes to, like, characters' performances. Okay, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Who do you think played it better? Alec Guinness or Ewan McGregor?
I always like the classic, but I think Ian McGregor's style of character, the younger version, I really liked. I never had a real big problem with him. I liked his cockiness when he was the younger version. Mm-hmm. Yet he was still smart enough to avoid a lot of the pitfalls, but he still made mistakes. But he was fun. He was humorous. I enjoyed the character. I really liked him.
Do you think that his version of kind of goes into the question I asked earlier about the setup? Do you think his version of Obi-Wan leads into the Obi-Wan of the original series?
Absolutely. Actually, Yoda and him both.
Yeah.
You run into both. In fact, actually, I read today, I think it was today, there's supposed to be a solo Yoda movie.
Oh, okay.
Now, that was very rough. It may have just been something in passing, but I could see that happening because we see Yoda. We know that he leaves in EP3 to go out and learn and discover. And if you watch the it is the Clone Wars series, the extended ones. Yeah. The other 6 episodes and whatever season 3 or 4 it was. You learn a lot. You learn a lot, and then you can relate that back to Empire Strikes Back. That's how a lot you can learn. And so it would be very interesting to see a stand. I know they're doing a standalone Han Solo movie. We knew there were going to be at least 3 series outside of the Star Wars episodes.
They have the content for it. They have it.
And you can even go into extended universe. You know, which right now the Disney Channel's XD series is going into right now, where they're adding some of the extended universe stuff. So you have a lot of content to draw, but I like that they're filling in some of those gaps. We're seeing Rogue One, a gap, fill in. The Clone Wars movies and the TV series is gaps between 2 and 3. You know, we're seeing these holes fill in, and we're getting brought into this universe more and more and more. And we could sit here for years and talk Star Wars Extended Universe.
Yes, we could.
But we still got 2 more movies to come out in the episode series, which should wrap up the entire saga. I mean, we should know everything that happens. At least I hope there'll be a closure, at least a nose.
One character I wish that could have had more screen time was Darth Maul, and one character I wish they could have actually introduced was Ventress.
Yes, Asajj Ventress.
Yes.
Well, they ran her all in the Darth Maul stories continues on in the cartoon series.
The cartoon series, and he was pretty good, and I like Ventress too, and that's why I was like that. I was like, I would have liked to see.
Well, they had the sisterhood. I mean, there was a lot of extended stuff in there, which I don't know if they could have tied it very well. Now, granted, you do have Darth Maul in the side series right now, who could maybe possibly using some of that storyline in there with the holocrons come into episode 8 and 9. You could have some pre-set up for this.
Yeah.
You know, because what is it, 30 years after episode 6, I think is the time frame that we're looking at, or maybe 25 to 30, well, about the same time frame.
Yeah, it's about
Force Awakens than it was from Star Wars episode 3 to episode 4. It was about the same age as Luke. So Luke and Kylo Ren are about the same age.
They're like, what? It's like a 20, 25, no. After A New Hope, after Return of the Jedi, it takes place like 20 years later.
Yeah, because You know, Luke was a teen technically when they came into episode 4, so you're talking about 18 to 20, give or take. You know, a little bit in there.
Yeah.
So, and I think the same thing from episode 6, Return of the Jedi, to Star Wars, Force Awakens. I think it's about the same amount of time.
Yeah.
So we're getting gaps in there, and they have room to fill in those in. You could have thrown those characters in there. Yeah. I've liked to have seen, gosh, who do I want to see? Calrissian, some more background on him.
Calrissian, who's that?
Lando Calrissian. That's the original owner of the Falcon.
Oh, Lando.
Lando.
I've never really knew what his last name was. I just knew him as Lando.
Oh yeah, Lando Calrissian. He was a mayor of basically Cloud City, and
yeah, he's one of those characters that should have had more. He should have his own film.
Well, they could. Well, yeah. They brought him into the TV series, cartoon series, briefly, which was cool, and again, kind of give you a little more background what happened after Cloud City. So there's a lot of interesting little side characters. Some of the bounty hunters would have been. Everybody loves Boba Fett.
I don't know too much about which one. Well, Boba Fett. Boba Fett was the one that was in the original, right?
Yes, and he captured Solo on Cloud City.
Now, he's another one of the characters I wish could have more like he was in all of the movies. I would have loved to have seen that because you see him in kind of like the ending of the second one, and you see him in the beginning of the third one. Then he gets ate up by this big monster.
Sarlacc.
Yeah.
Sarlacc gobbled him down. But a lot of the diehard fans have always wanted him to come back, and there was a fan-made film that he actually did survive the Sarlacc and dropped his Mandalorian armor. I would like to see, I'm glad I said that, I would like to see a tie-in with the Mandalorians as a group or as a race.
Yeah.
They have one character in the current series right now, but you see some of the other Mandalorians come back in later, and you see the Mandalorians got their butts handed to them at one point in time, and they got oppressed pretty hard by the Empire, and they stood back up. But they have their own kind of like versions of the lightsabers, but they're not. They're like black.
The Mandalorians. What are those?
They're warriors, like a warrior race, like the Klingons from Star Wars. The Mandalorians are that in the Star Wars world.
Okay.
They're kind of a that's what Boba Fett was, and that's why they used him to make the clones. Well, actually, Boba Fett was a clone, but one that didn't go through the advanced aging process to make him a troop real fast.
Yeah. That's Jango Fett's.
Jango Fett's basically prodigy.
Yeah.
A younger version of me. So,
yeah,
he ended up becoming a very popular character in the Star Wars world, and definitely would be an interesting side series or a good tie-in with him or the Mandalorians in general. Would be very interesting to see brought in because we already had the droid armies. Yeah. Think of an army of Mandalorians. That'd be pretty cool.
Let me know what some of your most epic moments were for. I know one of my epic moments. Of course, everybody likes it, even though it does feel choreographed. Is the Anakin versus Obi-Wan final battle?
Yeah.
And I actually went back and I watched the Vader versus Obi-Wan in the original Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked that I didn't notice this before. They actually pay homage in the fight sequence where you can actually see the similarities in the fight. It's just that in the prequels, they're faster. But
way if you go back, faster.
Yeah, if you actually look at the fight, the way they fight the exact same. Like the way they were spinning, the way they were doing the exact
style
same
of fighting.
Yeah, if you
I never really even caught that. I never thought about it. I thought it was kind of bad. That scene does have that moment in there where you're like, oh man, this is where they actually just pure, his hatred and everything develops because of what happened to him. It was his own damn fault. All he was trying to do was save him, and he just refused. Hey, you know what? I'm going to be bad anyway, and you can't do nothing about it. And then he's telling him, don't jump. I'm going to chop you up, and he does it anyway. And then he we lose 2 legs and an arm, and he's a splotch. Now, what killed me was instead of him, he couldn't bring himself to kill him, but he could provide himself to walk away and leave him frying on the lava. And I was like, that's pretty harsh. everybody else got, zorked or killed, and yet he leaves him there crispifying on the ground. I didn't see Obi being that kind of character, but then again, his guilt that he just could not put his friend down, his protege, his Padawan, he just couldn't do it. So he left him there basically to die.
Yeah.
That was very harsh. Of course, my other favorite is, again, we talked earlier, was when Luke and Vader are fighting in front of the Emperor, and he gets there and he just realizes, how more powerful he is. His dad realizes his mistake. His son realizes he's becoming his dad.
Mm-hmm.
And, everything processes and, like, I can't do it. I will refuse to do that. You're not going to make me do it. And the Emperor says, well, okay, become bacon. And tries to zap him with Force Lightning. That's one of the most powerful. In fact, actually, if I had a picture of it, one of the pieces of wall art I have is the original scene from Empire Strikes Back when he first confronts Vader for the first time, and he fights him in the freeze bay.
Yeah, I like that one.
That is one of my wall arts, is that scene also. That's another one of those moments where, it just, oh, man, there's Vader, and he's about to get his butt handed to him. Is he ready to fight him? Is he truly ready? Yoda said, well, you're on your own, man. If you go, you're on your own.
Yeah.
I'm warning you now. That's one of those other pivotal moments, at least in the older series, that strikes with me. And then trying to think. The whole beginning of episode 3.
Yeah, that was epic.
Always sticks in my head. I mean, I will just watch episode 3 just for that first 15 minutes.
Yep.
Till they park the what's left of the executor on the not executor. Can't remember his name of ship at the moment. When he parks it on the ground and it's all sizzling and burnt. That whole beginning of the movie was just like, what?
Yeah, they did great with that one.
That was awesome. One of the best scenes ever.
One thing that I did like about episode 3, besides just the Obi-Wan and Anakin fight, I like the Yoda versus Palpatine Emperor fight, because it symbolizes on 2 different levels. You have, Anakin and Obi-Wan, basically brothers, and you have these 2 brothers fighting each other. You got Yoda versus the Emperor, and that's like symbolic for like good versus evil.
Well, you have 2 Padawan. Well, basically, you can think of them as Obi-Wan was a Padawan to Yoda. Yep. Anakin ended up becoming a apprentice, in the term of Sith, to the Emperor. So you had master and student fighting
on both
each other, literally fighting. And you see the Emperor is pretty damn strong. I mean, granted, he's pretty old too.
Yeah.
But he, Yoda shrugs off a couple times and he gets his butt handed a couple times. It shows that he's not all powerful. Shows that sometimes good can win, sometimes bad can win. Yeah. And they end up kind of calling it a draw, and he's like, I got this place beat anyway, so I win. I've got it. So,
the Emperor showed out in that one. He did.
Yeah, he was once he got kind of face melted back to what he should have looked like.
Yeah.
It showed his face. And it's very interesting to read about Palpatine and his master.
Yeah. I wanted to read that.
Yeah, there's a lot of very interesting history that goes back into that, and how and what and why he was trying to do what he was doing. And there's all these theories about why he needed Anakin, not necessarily as an apprentice, but a way to entrap him to become his apprentice for other reasons.
Yeah,
I'll leave it at that, and you can read that, and we'll talk about that another time.
Okay.
But it's very, very interesting. And if you read a lot of the theories, you might actually see some of this come back and hit us in episode 8 or 9.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I think some of the precursor that you've seen about Rogue One, there's a scene in a trailer where it looks like Vader is standing in front of what looks like one of those medical tubes, and there's 2 royal guards to the left and right of the tube.
Yeah.
Who is it? Who's that important? Who's he bowing to in that chamber?
Okay.
It's got to be somebody important. And it's theoretically, it may or may not be Snoke. It could be somebody else. there's a lot of theories about Snoke floating out there too.
Yeah.
So we will learn more in episode 8. But I think we're going to get some information in Rogue One. So that's something to look forward to.
I think one of the best sequences that they showed. I mean, first I'm going to go ahead and jump into the fights. I'm one of the. I like the fights. Okay.
Oh yes.
The whole when Phantom Menace came out, that changed all the fight sequences. That did it for me.
They were bigger, better, faster.
Yeah.
When Maul and Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan were fighting Maul.
Yeah, that was it.
The dual saber, the fast pace, the things that are going on, and everything that goes, and that speed.
Yeah,
that carries on.
And this is one thing I want people to kind of understand. The reason why things are so fast paced was because they were younger.
Yes.
Yeah.
Younger, weaker character. Well, let me phrase that. Some more younger, more inexperienced. Others older and more experienced. So you had Maul versus Qui-Gon, which were about equivalent time frames, I guess, in skill. Just one was a little faster than the other.
Yeah.
And then you had a younger Obi-Wan who got in there and did some heavy damage.
Yeah. Then the same thing
carries him on.
Same thing went with like the whole Dooku.
Exactly.
The Dooku fight I feel was more choreographed.
I think that was just kind of an extra. They could have just almost done without it. The only thing that proved is that there was no loyalty. It's just a bigger, better deal. You served your purpose. You're out of here. And I think that's why that fight was so unepic.
Yeah.
At least in the episode 3, it just wasn't jumping out and screaming, awesome. It was just quick, knocked him down, game over. There was no extra storyline there. But then we go back to Dooku and Yoda comes in there.
I still kind of the only reason that one stood out was because Yoda was in it, and you actually saw what Yoda could do.
You start seeing what the little guy can do, and you get a sense of some of his power because he redirected the Force lightning like he did with the Emperor. Size doesn't matter kind of thing, as he taught Luke. It's just, size doesn't matter to you; it's how you feel and use it. And for him to show his power and ability into that. It was again, but it was just a short fight, just something real quick, just to show you here it is, and then done.
Yeah.
And then you have the more epic fights that come in there. When you have the Genesis, where all you have 30 Jedi down there fighting Genosians and robots and big baddies, and then you had the clones come in there and start really whooping around and showing all that stuff. There was a lot of things going on in that scene, especially Mace and Boba Fett.
I think that was actually the most standout battle, all-out battle.
Yeah, and even if you watch the animated series, there was another series of battles very similar to that, where you first introduced to Grievous, but you never see for a couple of those episodes. You never saw Grievous; you just heard about him and what he does, and he collected the lightsabers. And then in that one episode, you hear him walking with, hear his feet digging into the metal. And then he shows up for the first time and mops the floor with everybody in there. Yeah. And they're done, game over. And then you see when Obi-Wan fights Grievous on, I can't think of the name of the planet at the moment, but in episode 3.
Yeah.
You have a fight there, which was pretty badass because you got a 4-armed dude who's been taught by a Sith in lightsaber fighting. Yep. And 4 arms versus 1 arm, or 2 arms, basically.
He did it too.
He got put down a little bit, but then he came back.
I think it's very cool. The way the fight started off was what made it.
Oh yeah.
But we're coming up on that 45-minute mark, man. Yep. We gotta go ahead and just end it for now. You want to go ahead and continue this conversation next week? We can. Okay. We can actually move into the animated series. Yeah, we can go into that then. We're going to the animated series that they've done so far with the Clone Wars and the other series that they have coming out. We can definitely do that, and that'll help tie in some of the other stuff we talked about today too, because we did harp a lot on the Clone Wars animated between episode 2 and 3, and then we have the new series on there right now where we can tie in
some of the Rogue One. We can tie in some of the Force Awakens with that episode series as well.
Yeah. Okay, then. All right, then, guys. Y'all heard what we had to say about the Star Wars film series. We greatly appreciate y'all being here. King, you want to leave off any notes?
Well, come back, like us, share us, talk about us, come join us, leave questions. Narik Chase on this YouTube channel. You can come back, and we'll be back next week at 7 o'clock-ish. Actually, today was the first day we've had everything work seamlessly.
Yes.
Everything came up, everything worked, and we're running. We had a good discussion today.
Yes,
and
we did.
I definitely would like to see some folks come back, leave us some questions, comments, thoughts. Definitely hit the like button. Definitely hit the subscribe button. You'll get notified when we have our shows. And come and join us every week.
All right, then, guys. Y'all heard the man. Y'all need to come on and join and like and subscribe. And we will catch you guys on the next Break of Debates. Narik Chase, signing out.